All right, welcome to Be the Market Expert. And so I want to kick it off with this. It says commercial multifamily properties also suffering devastation from LA fires. All right, cool. So, well, I mean, not cool. And we're not going to dive into really the article yet. I do want to look at some things, right? It says approximately 1,400 commercial real estate properties have fallen within the incident evacuation, compromising more than 28 million square feet at an estimated value of $9.8 billion. Retail and multifamily properties have the largest exposure with 512 and 480 buildings, respectively. And it says this fire has included 786 commercial properties with high percentages of multifamily properties where the incident was, right? And so I think as we look at this thing, there's a couple things to keep in mind is firstly, we do not know the impact that this is going to have. And what's interesting about this is we have multifaceted things that are going to happen through here. One of those is yes, we have homes that have burned to the ground. All right, so we know that those homes and buildings are completely gone, and there's fire damage. Well, there's also another thing that where we're looking at this is what about the homes that were in proximity that did not burn to the ground? We have to keep in mind that I mean anyone that's been to a campfire or a bonfire, right? You know that after that fire has happened, you smell like smoke. There could be ashes on your clothes. Think about the people that are in proximity to this fire and the impact that it's had on them. Also, I want you guys to think about the impact that this has happened on people's personal property, their clothes, right, that are inside the house, their personal belongings, their insert whatever here, right, that's not a fixture to the property. Those are all three different insurance claims, right? When we think of someone that has had their home burned to the ground, okay, there's an insurance claim that's there. Does that insurance policy cover their personal property that's inside the home? Maybe, maybe not. Then we're going through and we're talking about the homes that did not burn to the ground, but they were in the proximity to the fire. What has happened inside of their home at this point? And is insurance going to step up there? And I think one of the other things we have to keep in mind is when these policies were issued, think about fix and flips. Think about maybe people that have lived in this home for a while now. What was their policy? Was their policy the purchase price from X amount of years ago or whatever is written at? If they were doing a fix and flip or even like a short-term rental, did they have enough policy in place to protect the home? We have no clue. But yeah, what we do know is depending on what insurance is going to do, and let's say the insurance does pay out, well, we know that we're going to be getting hit with higher premiums and higher rates all across the nation because of what is happening here, plus what happened out in the Carolinas, what happened in Florida. And so I think this is one of those things that we're going to keep monitoring. And I think it's going to be able to help us at least have conversations with our clients, with our future clients, right? About like, hey, do you have the proper insurance? Right. And even for us, I mean, everyone be thinking about yourself right now. And I think that this is super unfortunate. And yet, if your home were to burn down today, and let's turn this internally. If your home were to burn down today, firstly, do you have the right insurance policy on your house? Like for your home value today, where it sits, is your home insured all the way up to its current value? If your home were to burn down today, is everything in your home covered? And do you have proof of what was actually in your home, right? Do you have your jewelry? Do you have your firearms? Do you have your insert family heirloom here? Is all of that recorded and is it current and up to date of everything that is in your house? Do you have a policy for that? Right. And I think these are very, very important questions because these people were caught off guard. They had no clue this was coming their way. And while we understand that it's in an affluent neighborhood, totally get that. We have to also think that if they maybe let's say they do have the money to rebuild a house. Do they have the money to re-put all the items back in the home that they've lost? And so I think these are good questions we should be asking at least ourselves, and maybe reaching out to our insurance broker, whoever that is. Reach out to them, make sure that you have the right policies, at least on your own stuff. Go through that process, get a feel for that process, document that process, and then make sure that we're asking those same questions to our people. Like, hey, based off of everything that was happening, like, think about this. What would it look like to record a YouTube or an Instagram video? Because guess what? Instagram videos are longer now. And I'm not pushing everyone to go create a 3-minute YouTube or Instagram video, but you could these days because of the whole TikTok thing. And what would it look like to where we're going through and we're recording a video and saying, hey, everyone, just, with all the devastation that happened out in California, it made me think about my own insurance. And so I went through the process, and these are the things that I discovered. And I want to bring them to you so that you don't find yourself in a situation where you're underinsured. Go through the whole process, document it, put it out there on a video, and just put it out to your people. You can put it out on Instagram, you can put it on YouTube, you can put it into a email, so you can put in your newsletter and send this kind of information out. And guys, this is the helpful stuff. And while it's unfortunate that this came through California, everything that happened from them, like, what can we learn from this? And how can we be an advocate and champion our people so that this does not happen? And if it does happen, they are protected as best as possible. So I would challenge everyone, like, go do that as homework. Reach out to your insurance company, make sure that you're protected, ask questions. Here's a interesting one. So it says, why didn't we see national home price correction in 2024? We're not going to read the article, but I do have this graph. And so as we're looking at this thing, I'm going to share it because I already feel people wanting this thing. So here's your article. I think this one's free. If it's not free, let me know. I'll save the PDF and put it out there. So here we go. So we're looking at US home prices since 1942. So as we're looking at this thing, we got 1942, and we're looking at year and percent change. So 1942, we can see 3%, 11, like, so we're just going, there's 0, 1949. We're flying through. Let's get into some more relative years. 1970s, cool. 1990s. We see -1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 2. All right, let's fast forward. 2%, 4, 6% in 1998, 99, 8, 2009, 2001, 7, 02, 10, 03, 10, 04, 14%, 05, 14%, 06 has started to slow down. Then we got some negative years, right? 07 through 011, we saw declining rates in what we saw in a return on our investment. If you consider your home an investment, 2012, we went up to 6%, 13, 11%. This is when I got my real estate license. We're looking at 14, it's increasing. 2020, okay, so we had a pandemic, we saw 10%. 2021, low interest rate, we saw 19%, no inventory, supply and demand, 19%. Then we're going to 2022, 6%, 23, 6%, 2024, 3%. So be thinking about this, guys. Like, we know that something weird happened right here. Your homework, if you don't know what the weirdness was, go watch The Big Short. The Big Short will show you everything that happened. That's your homework assignment. If you don't know, watch that video. That is why we saw what happened in our real estate crash, was everything in that movie. And then with everything going through, we just started seeing increases and increases and increases, right? And we saw it slowing down. And here's the thing, 2023, we had elevated interest rates. 2024, we had elevated interest rates. 2025 so far looks like we're going to have elevated interest rates. And while things could change, we don't know, right? We don't know what that's going to look like. But yet there's no indication of what is happening that is going to put it out there to where we would actually see rates drop. I did see in the chat, it said, hey, I was wondering if owners are allowed to even rebuild over the burnt down house. Not sure the rules about that. Well, that's going to be interesting too. We don't know. Like, there are so many unknowns of what is going to happen with the insurance claims. Because here's the thing, especially in California, we know that there is very, very strict rebuild policies. Also, we have to think about, this is a very affluent neighborhood. So with the affluency of this neighborhood, a lot of these homes are multi-generational legacy homes passed down, one family member to another family member to another family member. These homes very well could have lead-based paint in them. These homes could have asbestos. These homes could have mold, right? Very well. Like, they could have all of these things in them. So it almost might be more advantageous to some of these people, not all of them, but some of these people, to take the money and run. Like, if their insurance company were to say, hey, here's the payout, they actually might just take the payout and run, right? Instead of having all the abatements done and going through and paying the EPA to come through and to look and to make sure that everything's done being properly, hundreds of $1,000s. Like, they actually might just take the insurance money, run, sell the lot, run away. We don't know. It's going to be very interesting, as well as, can they even rebuild over it? And I'm sure not without some abatement stuff happening. So cool, going through, guys. This is interesting. You do have this. I also just screenshot the photo as well and put it in there. So if you guys wanted that as well, I think this is interesting. So when we're going through and we're just having conversations with our consumers, and we're putting out this kind of information, and they're saying, hey, I'm waiting for the housing crash. And then we're getting into a dialogue with them, and we're asking them, hey, what are you looking at that's indicating that we're going to have a crash, right? And people have been predicting a crash. Airbnb bust, silver tsunami, housing crash, housing bubble. They've been predicting all of this stuff. And what are the indicators? What is currently happening out there right now that is suggesting that we are going to see a huge decrease in the values of homes? And we know what happened here. Like, we absolutely know what happened here. And this has been mitigated. We have procedures in place for this to never happen again. And when we're looking at this thing, yes, we know why we had a huge spike here. Money was free, right? And there was a lot of demand, not a lot of inventory, and there was money that was free. And then even when we sat through here, we have the most expensive homes that we have had as a nation. And we've had elevated interest rates, not the highest interest rates we've ever had, but we have elevated interest rates. So we have some of the highest home prices we've ever had as a nation. We have elevated interest rates, and homes are still going up in value. So if homes are still going up in value, we know that we're having less sales. And what is going to push the envelope over to where we would actually see a decrease in home values? And really nothing, right? There's not enough inventory, especially with all these natural disasters happening. Like, we just don't know. But what we can say is, historically speaking, real estate's a safe bet against inflation, right? Like, that's what we say. Real estate is a safe bet against inflation. Think about where eggs are, especially we live in Colorado, right? We have some of the most expensive eggs that are out there right now, right? Because we have cage-free eggs, and that's why, like, Costco is empty right now. They got signs on all that says, like, limit eggs per customer. And so when we're talking about a hedge against inflation, we know that when we lock in, we have a 30-year fixed product in the United States. Guys, we're one of the only countries in the world that has a 30-year fixed rate product, right? There's some places that have like a 15 and a 7, but we have 30 years fixed rate product where we know today and 30 years from now what our rate is on our loan. And that is a hedge against inflation, because everything else is going on. We're not seeing it rise up and down. So we can actually predict today, 15 years from now, 20 years, 30 years from now, what it's going to be. And that is a hedge against inflation. So when we have a hedge against inflation, we know that we're historically seeing these numbers, 4% on average. is where we are from the 1990s to today. And so this is where we know it's a safe place, historically speaking, to park money is in real estate. So kind of interesting to kind of look at the graph. So I also wanted to pull this up because I think it goes hand in hand. So firstly, we're seeing increased rate or increased values in home, right? We're seeing people's balance sheets in their home go up. We're in the green. That's good. And then it says foreclosure auction volume sank to a 3-year low to end 2024. So kind of interesting, right? Like we're going through, it says foreclosure auction volume drops to 3-year low in Q4 of 2024. So here we are, and we're looking at this thing. We got 2015. We have 2020. Yep, that makes sense. There wasn't a whole lot of foreclosures. Why would there be? And then here we are right now. So we're at 42%, right? This is where it's going through. It says complete foreclosure auctions, percentage of Q1 2020 level, scheduled foreclosure auctions, percentage of 2020, percent of 2020 levels. So we're looking at this thing and it says, Distressed Home Sale Marketplace Auction.com released a new report Monday highlighting a drastic drop in foreclosure auction property in the Q4 of 2024. And it's saying, but auction buyers are still willing to enter the market as new presidential administration settles into office. Okay, cool. So we're going through and it's looking, it says buyer demand for inventory are both foreclosure and REO property auctions also fell in Q4, but buyers expressed more optimism after the conclusion of the 2024 election. According to auction.com, 43% of surveyed buyers, okay, so we're talking about surveyed people again, which we know how I feel about surveyed people, said the election results made them want to purchase properties at an auction. Only 3% said the election decreased their willingness to buy, while the remaining 54% said, hey, we're unchanged. We're going to buy them if they make sense. So we're going through it. Says despite everything, the sales rate and foreclosure auction declined by 3% between the third and fourth quarter. So again, we have this. We have increasing home values. We have less distressed home sellers. Here's the thing. No one loses money on a property unless they sell. Now, with that being said, the only people that are being forced to sell are people that are losing their jobs. Now, that very well could be real, right? Like we could be seeing stuff as the current administration goes through, and we could see people actually start to lose jobs. And we know that it's going to be around a lot of government jobs, and we're already seeing some of that stuff kind of take place right now. And yet, guys, that's what happens. Distressed home sellers are only in a distressed home selling situation if they don't have the money to make their mortgage. The reason why they wouldn't have the money to make their mortgage is if they don't have a job. In most cases, yes, there could be another life event that happens, and that's where they have to funnel the money. And yet, when we're going through and we're thinking about this, this is one of the biggest things. So we have some of the best balance sheets on homes, right? Home values are going up and they're going up and they're going up, and they have been. And we're going through and we're having less distressed home sellers. Why would we see a dip in home prices? Right? There is no inclination at this point to why we would see home values go down. So when we're having conversations with our consumers and they're saying, I'm waiting for interest rates to go down. Okay, cool. So what do you think they're going to go down to and when? I'm waiting for home prices to go down. Awesome. What are you seeing in the market that is an indicator that home prices are going to go down? Right? Waiting for the silver tsunami, Airbnb, insert whatever here. Awesome. What are you seeing in the marketplace that is suggesting that that is going to happen? Also, are you waiting for that to happen because you are more concerned about the price of the home or about your monthly payment? And those are the conversations that we should be having to be that real estate economist of choice. So Logan Motoshami, what we do, right? We go back and we look at his rearview facing data when he's talking about every Friday, and we look at it on Tuesday. So his title, it says, what can President Trump do to help the housing crisis? All right. So the week has been full of surprising headlines regarding the housing market, particularly concerning President Trump, his executive orders, and demand for lower interest rates. This is interesting, guys, because demand on lower interest rates The president does not have the ability to make this happen. All right, the Fed presidents do not report to the president of the United States. But what the president could do is really just come out just as loud as he is, because we all know that we have a very loud president. And what he can do is that he can get out and he can hold pressers and pressers and pressers and pressers and just say, I've encouraged this and they're not doing anything. I've encouraged this, and just put downward pressure on them from the people. And yet I think that's what he is doing at this point. And it says, have overshadowed the unusual discussion of the housing economics. In this article, he's going to give us some updates. Cool. We're not going to talk about 10-year yields and treasuries and mortgage spreads. Like, we're not going to go through that. But purchase application data, here we are. Here's 2025. And we were in the basement. Now we're popping up. So this is good. It's kind of going up a little bit. And so when I'm looking at this data, we're not as high as 2023 or 2024 at this point. Yet, what we need to be doing is we need to be going out and having conversations with our people. We need to make sure that none of these are our people. So there are still people that are going through having conversations with their lenders and saying, hey, how much home do I qualify for? Right? And they're going through and they're figuring out what the dollars look like. And this is what we should be doing. Having these conversations, being the real estate economist of choice, putting content out there, right? All these different things that we are doing and making sure that none of these are our consumers that have not told us. This tells me that people are still looking to buy. And what we know is, historically speaking, sellers become buyers. So this could be two deals that are here. And do we know who these people are? Pending home sales. So it's going through and it says softness to show in the pending home sales data from NAR soon, since the low bar in sales has been uplifted. And it says we are higher than 2023 levels. If mortgage rates can just head towards 6%, we will have a growth in sales. So that's crazy, right? When we think about this and we're having these limiting beliefs and these conversations in our heads, and we're thinking that interest rates are super high, and yet we just need to get to 6%. We know that the American people at this point are comfortable at a 6% interest rate. And with that being said, it had nothing to do with yes, there has some consequences with higher elevated interest rates, but yet most people just want to see this. They want to see it flat. They don't want to see a bunch of jerking roller coaster up and down. We want to make sure that we know what the cost of money is tomorrow, 30 days from now, 90 days from now. And so if we can just see it flatten out around the 6%, the economists believe we are going to see an uptick in sales. And so if we go through and we look at this, we got total house sales pending. So here we are in 2025. We're a little bit higher than where we were in 2023, kind of going more towards that scale. We're not where we are in 2024, and we're obviously not where we were in 2022. Keep in mind, 2022, at least this part of the graph, low interest rates, right? We didn't start seeing the uptick in interest rates until around here. And that's when we started coming down fast and hard. So 2022 is a real hard line to kind of put anything against, because it might as well have been 2021 for the first half of the year. Housing inventory, right? So let's look at our visual representation. Guys, this is a good thing. We have more inventory making it to the market, which means we have more negotiation power as a buyer's agent. We know that we are heading more and more into a balanced market, which will inevitably turn into a buyer's market. For all intents and purposes, we might as well just call it a buyer's market that we're heading into. And so what that means is that, yes, and there's pockets, right? There's obviously pockets of neighborhoods that are getting multiple offers, right? That's very real still, to where they are getting 5, 6 offers. Very, very real. Yet, what we know as we're looking at this thing, more inventory means that homes are sitting on the market longer, which means that if you had somebody sitting on the fence because maybe they didn't want to have to go out and do some of the crazy things that we had to do back in 2021, then we have the ability to go through, we have the ability to negotiate concessions, We have the ability to come to the table and get more inspection items taken care of. We have the ability to negotiate our compensation into the contract. And so, guys, this is a good thing. And so as we're going through and we're having conversations, there's more choices. More choices means that both parties can come together and create a win-win, because the only people that are putting their home on the market right now are motivated, right? They have a reason to sell. They're not putting it on there because they just want to go buy a new house because interest rates are super low, right? Like we are well beyond that. And so if someone has their home on the market, it's because there's a life event that is making them move. So their home's on the market, they need to get to point B, and they are more apt to coming to the table and having a conversation. So we need to be talking to our buyers and figuring out like, hey, we have more inventory, which means there's less competition, which means that we might be in the driver's seat. And so be thinking about that, guys. Like one of the things that I would probably do is I would go through and guys, go look at all the homes that have been on the market for 120 days, 200 days. Those have to be motivated sellers. Think about the motivation and the psychology behind these people that have been sitting and waiting for their home to sell, going through all the ups and downs of what interest rates are doing, going through an election where they didn't know what was going to happen on the other side of things. And if you had a buyer that was on the fence and you're like, well, look, we got all these properties of motivated people that might be willing to lower their price, pay for your closing cost, right? Like these are motivations. Like we get to show our value as buyer agents in this market. This is going to be a fun market. I'm telling you guys right now, 2025, with interest rates coming down to that 6% level, as well as more inventory on the market, you need to be talking to your people. This market's going to pick up and it's going to be fun here, especially because we're in seasonality. We're in winter right now. When it turns into the springtime, guys, I'm not going to say it's going to be gangbusters, but it's going to be moving. It's going to be a fun market. We're looking at this thing, just new listing data. Guys, here we are. Like we're peaking up. So we got more inventory than 22, 23, 24. More inventory in 22 still makes sense because, again, interest rates were so low that inventory was still moving off the shelf. Guys, that's the thing. Like when we think about 21 and the beginning part of 22, interest rates being where they were on the floor, at least in the beginning of 22, this is what happened. The prices were so over the top because there was no inventory. There was no inventory. So when we go back, right, and we're looking at this data, and we're going through and we're seeing that in 21, 19%, and then 6%, you have to figure that most of this 6% came from the first 2 quarters of 2022. Then it kind of flattened out. Here, when we're looking at this thing, so it's almost the same as 21, right? We're talking 6% versus 19%. So if we were to get a full year worth of data, let's call it, maybe we could have got up to 12 at that point. So as we're looking at this, this means that we have so much opportunity because more and more homes are hitting the market. Motivated sellers are sitting on the market longer, maybe in a situation where they need to sell. Maybe they are going into one of these distressed situations. Now, they have so much equity in their home, unless they bought in 22, 23, 24, that they're probably not going to get foreclosed on, but yet we should be at least having the conversations. Price cut percentages, nothing crazy here. We know that 1/3 of all homes in the United States take a price cut every year. We're living in that right now. And so here we are. This is the week ahead. We are in this week. Remember that all this data that we just looked at came out on Friday. So it says it's Fed week. And then after President Trump's remarks about interest rates, and again, can't force it. He can be as vocal as he wants to put pressure on people, though. We can expect interesting questions and answers following the Fed announcement this week. This week, we also have a lot of economic data to look forward to, including new home sales, home prices, PCE inflation, and some bond auctions. And as always, jobless claims data will be released Thursday. This is the big one, guys. Everything here, jobless claims, like this is what is truly going to be controlling a lot of what happens with interest rates, right? So as we're watching this will be interesting. We got a new administration. The new administration is going to be potentially relieving removing some of the government workers out, right? Remember, they just had an executive order that came out, said back to 5 days a week, you're going to be in office. And so we don't know like who's going to quit. We don't know who is going to be getting removed from their positions. We could see jobless claims go up. When we see jobless claims go up historically, right? Here's 10/5/2024. But when we're looking at jobless claims and jobless claims rising, historically speaking, we see interest rates lower. When we see higher jobs, then we see interest rates start to go up as well. And so there's a correlation with this because there's a thought, at least with our Fed, that when we have people that have jobs, that means they have money. So we don't need to lower the rates of the cost of money, because then they'll go spend more money, which will cause more inflation. And so then when people don't have money, we need to lower the cost of money. So people borrow money to go spend money. And that's why we keep seeing these things. So really, we should be watching jobless claims. So as we start to see jobless claims go up, because they're going to go up, they're going to go up. What we're probably going to see is interest rates start going down, and we're going to start to see this. And so we all need to be ready. We need to be ready to start making sure that we know who our top 10 people that are thinking about buying and selling this year, that we need to go through and make sure that we're watching the interest rates, because I'm telling you right now, they're going to start going downward as this number starts going up, and this number will start going up. It says we also need to keep an eye on pending home sales data. Upcoming reports will show the softness reflected in our weekly pending contracts. Yep, we're going to start seeing that kind of stuff. So let's look at interest rates. Here we go. We can start to see, this was as of yesterday, Monday, and we can go through, we can see that interest rates are coming down a little bit, based off of where they were. Like nothing huge, but guys, like this is kind of what we want to see. We don't want to see a big dip like this. But I guess the alternative would be a bigger increase, a bigger peak, if you will. So when these lines start to flatten out a little bit more, this is when people start to feel comfortable. This makes people feel uncertain. This really makes people feel uncertain. So our consumers want to see some stability when they're going out and they're getting money. So these are the kind of things that we should be looking at as we're going forward and having just conversations with our consumers, to where we know that the cost of money is starting to flatline. We'll start to see more people raise their hand. Well, let's look at Altos data, right? And so we can kind of see that we're still in a seller's market. So this is 80002. Guys, you all have the ability to go into Altos data and start looking at some information. But as we're going through and we're looking at this, we're starting to see it flatten out a little bit. Okay, cool. We would expect that. More inventory coming onto the market. Prices start to flatten out. Not a bad thing. We go through and we look at this. We got average days on market, 144. So this goes back to the point about interest rates. So we're talking 144, right? We're talking, this is what, 4 months, 30, 60, 90, 120, almost 5 months, almost 5 months worth of inventory is the average days on market. So when we're talking about that, and so let's go 5 months, think about someone that is thinking about listing their home here, and this happens to them. This is what pulls people back, because you might be able to afford a home that is comparable or bigger to your house that you currently have. But if it takes 5 months and we're living up here now, the affordability becomes a conversation. That's why we want to see it flatten out. Homes are sitting longer. Well, then we look at median, right? So median's only at 90. So we're talking 3 months. So then when I'm talking to consumers, we should be having a conversation around pricing your home too high. You're going to sit for an average of 5 months. Pricing your home in respects to where the market is right now, we're talking 3 months. So this is the conversation we should be having with our people. When we're going invited to the dining room table to have a conversation with a potential seller, this is the cost of listing the home too high. Then what we see is that we also see 30%, right? Historical average, right? 1/3 of all homes take a price decrease. So yeah, we could list your home for higher than what the market is demanding, and your home's probably going to sit for an additional 2 months. And during that 2 months, we're going to be taking price decreases. to get back in line. So during that time, you're going to stigmatize your home. Your people are going to be wondering what's wrong with your home. We could be getting some lower than market value offers on your house, right? And like those are the issues. Plus, guess what? You're still making a mortgage payment. Not only are you making a mortgage payment on your home, but all the other homes that maybe popped up on the market that you were interested in, they might be getting bought. And then now that opportunity is now gone. These are the conversations we should be having, that we should be comfortable with having with our consumers when we go to a listing appointment. Yes, they're in control, but it's our job to be the real estate economist of choice to provide them with the data and the material benefits and the material risks when it comes to overpricing their home. Price increases 38%. So guys, this is new builds, right? And this is not people that their home fell off the market and they're like, yes, let's raise it another 15K. What this is doing is this is phase 2, phase 3, phase 4 of new builds where they have the model home in the MLS. They've sold phase 1 out and now they're in phase 2. And so that model home has gone up in price and they've put it in the MLS. That's what this is reflecting right here. This is not a resale house that is falling off the market and they're increasing the price. Relisted 13%. So again, with the cost of money being where it is, if consumers are not coming to the table together and having a conversation, we're seeing some deals fall apart. Inventory is a ranking of a 6. Your median rent is $3,200 right now. And then your market action score is a 46, which is just saying that we're in a seller's market. Cool. So guys, as we're going through and we're thinking about this, right? There's your homework. I would reach out to your insurance agent and make sure that you're asking the questions to see if you are insured. And if you feel comfortable, and I hope you all do, record a video of the process that you went through and challenge your people to go through the same process based off of your findings, right? Also interesting, we are seeing price increases year over year, even with elevated interest rates, with foreclosures having a drop in auction volume to a 3-year low. So as we're having conversations with our consumers, what is the indicator in the market that they are looking at that is suggesting the prices are going to come down? And have them show you. Don't make them wrong, right? Don't say, hey, got you, right? That's not the point of it. Just say like, hey, I want to know your perspective because look, we're looking at all the data and nothing is suggesting that. We'll go through, guys. This is going to be interesting, this jobless claim. And again, because a lot of the federal employees that I actually think are going to vacate their position with the new mandates coming out, this number could rise, which will be very interesting. And this number right here, like this is what we want to see. The more flat that the cost of money gets month over month, the more comfortable our consumers will be into being able to go and purchase a house.